Well, good afternoon. I'm sitting here with Jim Libby, running
Hi,
for
Quentin.
governor.
How are you?
I am well, thank you.
Awesome.
Senator Jim Libby.
Yeah.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
When did you get started in politics?
Yeah.
What office did you run for and why?
I first started in an appointment. So Governor McKernan appointed me after I helped with a couple of campaigns. So I go all the way back to U.S. senators that are long behind us now. But you know, I worked on Olympia Snow's campaign, and she ended up marrying Governor McKernan.
She was a nice woman.
She's a very nice woman. She's done a lot for this state. I don't think people have forgotten either. I think
Sorry, everyone.
I think they realize it. But anyway, I worked with her. Bill Cohen. I worked on a Bill Cohen campaign, and you know what's great about getting to know those people is they come back later. He came back and helped me to dedicate a Vietnam Veterans Memorial in the town of Buxton. So anyway, I worked with all these people, and then my father was a selectman in Buxton. So I was born in Saco, raised in Buxton. And so over 5 decades, he was a selectman. So the first time I ran for anything was 1991. I was running for a 92 slot for House. And honestly, and there was a Democrat incumbent. And honestly, I think most everybody thought they were voting for my father. But I won. And that was okay. And McKernan wanted me to run anyway. Obviously, he was trying to get more people in the House because, I mean, it was brutal when he was in there. He was the Republican, but he was a backboard. He'd like veto. He had 100 vetoes.
Oh, I remember, actually.
Yeah.
I was very, very young at the time, but I remember
100 vetoes. Yeah, you're still a young guy. He had 100 vetoes, and the last one was overridden. So, but he taught me to threaten the veto early if you're not in the majority, because then the Democrats kind of know, because the bill is the bill, you know, LD 362, an act to do whatever, an act to do cartwheels on some football field. Well, you know, he always said, you know, if you threaten them with the veto, then they have to come to you. So he was our backboard. That's what I mean when I say it.
So so your first year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 1992. You won, you think, accidentally. Because of your father.
Well, I kind of joke about it. I think, you know, a lot of people know it was me, but some people just liked my father. He was really well liked.
Yeah, he was NASCAR.
He was the president of the Maine State Stock Car Racing Association for many years. And Beechwood Speedway meant everything to him. Before that, he was president of the Pine Tree Association, which is Oxford.
Yeah.
So he worked with every major person in racing in New England for decades.
That's crazy.
And it was great because, you know, so growing up, you were asking about, you know, my upbringing. We had a garage in Buxton that you would have loved because we built stock cars every year. I mean, we would build 1 or 2 like every single year. And I learned how to weld. I learned how to weld the bumpers on at like 5 years old, 6 years old. And I'll never forget the first time my father, you know, put the helmet on me. I'm like, Dad, I can't see anything because, you know, the window is like black. And he goes, just move a little forward. And I was stick welding. And all of a sudden, zzz, and then I realized, you know, just how it worked and, you know, how the bonding would work and so forth. It was great to have that early upbringing, you know. I also, it reminds me of my first job was at GTE Sylvania. We made circuit breakers for automobiles. And that was an incredible experience too.
That's
you know,
pretty wild, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, and we, you know, I think GM was our biggest contract. And, you know, I learned about assembly line techniques. I learned about, you know, the importance of economies doing the work right. And I also learned about unions in there. So McKernan had 1990, I think it was, he made me the chair of the Maine Labor Relations Board. It was a tripartite board. So 3 people. You got somebody in labor, somebody in management, and then a neutral chair, which is what I was supposed to be. So, and there were 3 of those, so it was 9 of us total. So I got really at an early age, I got a ton of experience. Like,
how old were you at the?
This was like early 30s.
Yeah.
In my late 20s, I was working on campaigns, and then in my early 30s, I got in government, and I didn't last long in the labor relations board because I ran for office, you know, and then that was just a great experience. So when people say, do you really think there's cheating in elections? I will say to them, because I was there, hey, I had to live through Ballotgate and, you know,
some people don't know about Ballotgate.
They don't. No. Well, I know, because I saw one candidate was saying something about this, you know, the 250 ballots. This is the biggest scandal we've ever had. Actually, no, Ballotgate. So
in the closet.
2 employees of the Speaker of the House at that time went in the closet, and it was the Secretary of State's place where they used to put the ballots in a recount. So there's a recount going on, and 2 guys went in there, and the way I understand it, so they stuffed the ballot. They stuffed more ballots than the Democrat would have won, but somebody noticed, I don't know who it was, but somebody at Bill Diamond's office. So Bill Diamond actually was a hero, and they used to try to, you know, kind of go after him because he was the Secretary of State at the time. But
he was an honest, decent guy.
He was an honest man. People don't realize. I was a longtime friend of his, and I did meet with him just before he passed, which was, you know, he didn't look that bad. So I was kind of surprised.
Shocking. Yeah.
But anyway, you know, so Ballotgate, you know, Ken Allen was the one who actually put the cigarette out on the floor that they tested, and that was the beginning of DNA. And the way I understand, the way I understand the story, and so they caught both of them. They both went to jail, and you know, it's good when people get caught. Like the NBA just had this big scandal the other day. You saw?
Is that crazy or what?
It's insane, but you know, it's good when people get caught, because other people that might be tending to do something illegal like that think twice about it.
I'm blown away that there's X-ray vision.
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't know that existed.
Yeah.
I thought it was in the back of Boy Scout magazine. I didn't think it was a real thing. I didn't think we'd gotten that far. I've used thermals. I've used all kinds of different optics. I've never crossed my mind there was X-ray vision.
It's amazing. Like, if you're doing something today and you're a criminal, you're more likely to get caught than ever if we have people working at it. Like, if we've got the FBI, if they're helping, if we've, you know, ICE, you know, think about all the stuff that we're not doing with ICE in Maine, all of the, standoff stuff. It's ridiculous.
What's with the hotline now? Have you seen that one? My wife was telling me about it this morning. I caught a little glimpse. There's a phone number you can call, a hotline.
Yeah.
And
I saw people holding
ICE alerts.
Yeah. So they're trying to tell people when ICE are in the area, and so that they can escape. The whole thing's ridiculous.
Have we even had really ICE agents in Maine yet?
Yeah, there's been some. Yeah.
Some?
Yeah.
Not much.
Well, I mean, I hope it increases.
Yeah. Lewiston's a mess.
It is. We need to do something.
I was sitting at a meet and greet the other day, and I have a couple of folks coming here Sunday to talk, because it was enough to make my toes curl. I worked as a private investigator in Lewiston, Auburn.
You did?
I did. I retired from the military 2014. I worked as a PI assistant for 2 years before I got the job that I have currently. And I just don't want to drop company names. Everybody drinks beer, Democrats, Republicans, Jordan, everybody buys sneakers. But while I was there, I was shocked at what happens and doesn't get reported. And then these people were discussing what some of them were facility staff in the schools, teachers, special ed teacher. It was a wide spectrum of people, and the things they were telling me were like you wouldn't believe it was true. And I think
what?
Well, here, state law says that if you're mentally ill and child, you go to high school up until 22. So they have a 21-year-old that is a 3-to-1 caretaker ratio, because you can't leave the person alone. They did once, and the person, mind you, this is third party, so I may be getting a little skew. He'll shit in his pants and throw it in your face. Yeah. You have to maintain a 3-to-1 with this person.
Yeah.
Well, why is he in high school? Yeah. He's 21, or she, whomever this is.
Yeah.
And that was one thing. Then there's gangs, the Somali gangs, the Bantus. They're saying that an average of 6 a week arrests for gun possession, and they just dump them right back on the street. There was some Long Creek, It's well known that there's a party here in Maine that doesn't care for Long Creek. They also have influence over judges. The judges are of that like-mindedness. And so kids aren't getting sent to Long Creek. So Long Creek sits there empty. There is no juvenile detention center that's effective. They did mention one place. I wish I could remember. It was an odd name, Uganda. It was a strange name, but they did well with the kids. But that's so few and far between that get put there and learn a lesson. And so you have these kids running rampant. And I could show you, and actually I'll post this on with this video. I have a video of a car last Sunday that was 5, they were known to the police department, 5 individuals, Somali in nature, and not all Somalis are bad. And the way I understand it, there's 2 groups. There's the Bantu and the one that nobody remembers their name, unfortunately. The ones that nobody remembers their name is because they're not loud, boisterous, and in your face and causing trouble. Everybody remembers Bantu because they're the ones causing all the hate and discontent. So these 5 individuals are Bantu. They drove a nice car, BMW, whatever. I'm not a fancy rich car guy. They go bouncing over the curb. The car is rendered inoperable. They leave it in the parking lot. They sterilize it, take the license plates, and run away. And the officer's like, yeah, I'll go and serve him with papers. They'll go to court. Nothing will happen.
Nothing will happen.
Nothing will happen. He's already met these kids 5, 6 times.
Yeah.
And it's the same story. It's rinse, wash, repeat, rinse, wash, repeat. And then I was going through the LexisNexis. I did this with the city committee. I went through, because Lewiston is named by Wallet Hub 9th safest city in the nation, which there's 200 shootings a week. So I go through LexisNexis Crime Map, which is one of the FBI crime tools, reporting tools, right? So I show them where in 2019, after the kid got, and I say kid, after the person got stoned to death in the park, they stopped reporting to LexisNexis. There's no crime in Lewiston, according to that map. Go figure.
Yeah.
No wonder you're 9th safest city. And, you know, again, all anecdotal, but you can look it up. It's right there. What does that mean? Is anybody doing anything about it? The current administration turns a blind eye to it. Everything's fine. Lewiston gets extra funding because they're taking in immigrants, so they're happy, and they get their pet projects that do the working class no good. I left City Hall the other day. As I'm walking out of City, and I don't mean to hog this conversation.
No, that's okay. I want to talk about Lewiston.
I'm walking out of City Hall, and, you know, I'm a cannabis supporter. I don't care. I'm a libertarian.
Mm-hmm.
Do what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Be productive, though. So I'm walking out of City Hall. It's noontime. And there's 4 people. One of them's down in a squat position, smoking a Sherlock Holmes-shaped pipe, whoop, whoop, burning a big fat one at noontime. All of them in their pajamas.
Yeah.
All of them of various degree of unkept.
Yeah.
And you know they didn't just get out of work, or they're not headed to work later that day. Yeah. And this is what we do. Yeah. And this is how we keep people oppressed, I guess, by their own free will.
Well, it starts with, but, you know, like, yeah, we can definitely talk about the specifics of that, but I've always felt like the whole thing started with, when in the last 7 years, the whole thing started with this massive expansion of main care, because every single, I mean, like 9 out of 10 of those people are on main care. We've got over 400,000 people that are on main care, and those people that want to be non-productive don't have to be. And in my Senate district, we've got drug houses that you would not believe. I mean,
what Senate district is that?
Okay, so I'm Senate District 22. I live in Standish. Goes all the way to the New Hampshire border, up from Naples, Standish to the New Hampshire border. So, and 3 counties are covered. So in Oxford County, and this is public information, so it's not anything I'm, delivering inappropriately, but there are 7 drug houses just in that tiny town. And I've been to them because we went to serve them paper. So the code enforcement officer and the health officer went with me to this one. It's basically a flop house where there's at least three different families in this old house that doesn't even have electricity, right? And there is an owner, but the owner says, oh, they can live there, you know. There's kids in there. And so I went, and probably the saddest thing I ever saw was two of the guys come out, and one was just like couldn't even like walk. He was like zigzagging. He was so stoned. With there was an infant in a carriage, and then there was about a 9-year-old with him. So if you think about like what we've created it from the government side of it, and I blame government for a lot of our social ills, and that's something we can talk about. That like from everything from the federal level to the expansion of money supply to what we're talking about here, where too many people are able to live on main care and food pantries and other things that they
get. Needle giveaways.
Well, needle giveaways.
Safe places to go.
Yeah, that's really ruined Portland.
It's ruined Lewiston, Portland, Sanford. The list goes. There's one trail now in Portland they've marked off as a hazardous area, and you're not supposed to walk there anymore because it's just so filled with litter and trash.
And it's funny because the news is they're fighting over whether there's 3 people with hepatitis or 16. There's a big fight, between, the local news channel and the main wire. They're fighting over that. Well, I don't care. Obviously, there's people with hepatitis.
Yeah.
And why do they have it? Come on, so we're not taking the steps that you and I would take if we were there. If we were able.
You remember the bill that got introduced for the needle exchange, right? Okay, so it got shot down in the House. I didn't follow it through the Senate, but it got shot down in the House because they said follow the science. It's saving people from HIV and hepatitis. Yet HIV is higher now than it was before the needle. This 500 or 100 needle giveaway happened.
Right. So here's where we might have a disagreement, but it'll be a friendly one. So like with medical marijuana and recreational, the discussion was and the debate was, well, the one good thing about this that we know is that there won't be any illegal. And there is. The black market is huge.
Oh, for sure.
And it's the same thing. Like, again, we talk about the NBA, we have gambling now for games, right? And so you shouldn't be surprised that people got busted for gambling.
No,
right?
I'm not surprised. I'm just shocked at the X-ray vision.
And it was gang related.
Yep. Mafia. Yeah.
Mafia.
Yeah,
so you have to, I think where people go wrong in the current majority party, the Democrats, where they go wrong is when you have a bill go through. Originally when we came up with the fiscal note. The original bill for that was we're going to do an impact analysis, not just like an impact to the state, to the budget, right? That's what the fiscal note is.
Right.
How much are we going to lose from the budget or gain?
But the impact on the community.
The impact on Maine, the impact on the community. And then I think the lawyer, we got a great team of lawyers downstairs that write these bills and the revisor's office, and I admire them, but they weren't, they're not able to do that. Like we would have had to, but we should examine the impact way more than we do. The one thing that's different from the time you've been there in your young life to I'm 64 years old and I've been there, right? One of the things that's really different is the bills. When we put those bills together, it used to be that if there was a divided report, Quentin, those would very infrequently make it.
No kidding.
Look at now.
Oh, yeah.
If there's a divided report that the Democrats are behind, they all go through.
Oh, yeah.
All of them.
Oh, yeah.
That was always a big deal. Like,
I've seen bills ought not to pass out of committee pass on the House floor.
That did not happen very often in the 90s. But it happens now. But the divided reports, that's where you need to do the impact analysis, right? Those divided reports are divided for a reason. They took testimony in whatever committee it was, and there were people opposed to it. And so that, as a result, some legislators were opposed to it. But it's so partisan now. It's like, it's always, 8 to 5. Maybe it's 7 to 6, but very few Democrats come over to work with us. And that's why I loved McKernan, because he would force them to.
Was there an impact study on the results of giving away hundreds of needles at a whack without any exchange?
There might be a private study that, and the legislature probably read it, but it's nothing that we generate ourselves or, and I think that the legislature needs to do that because some things don't have studies. I
don't think it needs to be studied. I think we can just safely say.
Well, that's true too.
And then just to not let this one go, believe me, I know there's illegal cannabis in Maine.
Yeah.
And I want to throw this out there. There was, when was it? It was last year, I think it was. There was a pile of marijuana that made it to Maine from California that came out of the metric system.
Yeah.
And there was a whistleblower on it. And we don't talk about that in the shortfalls of this track and trace program that we currently use.
Yeah.
But, that's
a
whole nother subject.
Well, I think where again, this might be something we agree on with marijuana. I'm not sure, but I'm not a fan of the amount of licensure that they give out and the way that they give it out. I mean, some people that had licenses on not just medical, but recreational had, criminal backgrounds. And we can't do that. We can't do that. Everyone deserves a second chance. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about there are people who were active criminals who recently had been charged with things. And so
it's actually on the calendar.
Yeah.
First, we were supposed to meet Monday and discuss that.
Good.
So it is up for debate. And
if you had less licenses, so on the supply side, the fewer the licenses, the more the price goes up. And the one thing, if you are in favor of cannabis, and you said you were, the one thing you wouldn't want is cannabis on every street corner. You want the licenses to be controlled, just like New York City cab drivers always were, or any of those, if you control the number of people that are putting the product out there in the market in Maine, and there's far less, that's going to create a scarcity. If there's a little bit of a scarcity, the price goes up. It's just, that's economics. And so the fact that
says the economics professor.
Well, yeah.
I know, you're
But the fact that, and I am an economics professor, so I didn't finish with my whole introduction, but we got, hot and heavy into some of these things. But yeah, but that's a fact. That's just the way, the demand curve works. And on the supply side, that's the way that works. And we have to be cognizant of that because, if you're creating any type of business, it's supply is a big thing, like in electricity. We're going to talk eventually, I think today, hopefully,
you can talk about, right now if you
about
want.
Energy, right?
Yeah, energy is a huge issue in Maine.
Supply side on energy is critical. We don't produce enough electricity in Maine. We don't produce enough energy in Maine.
Why?
Well, for one thing, we've always been willing to import, and so Quebec has great hydro,
and that's capped.
We got all kinds of caps all over the place, and that affects markets too. But honestly, hydro is the best form of electricity generation because it's 24/7. And there's a lot of force and power behind it. You can turn the turbines and you can get electricity out of it. So we need to think about that. And when you compare it directly with things like solar and wind, you've got exponential development of electricity in the area of, I'm not just talking about hydro either. I'm talking about like natural gas, which we do in Maine as well. We got natural gas fired plants, and we should promote those plants and we should help them expand. There's that. And then, or we can, like wind turbines is a fraction of the
wind turbines and solar, I think combined on a great day is what, 3%?
4%.
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah. I mean, and, there's a couple of representatives. They'll post that every once in a while.
Yeah, Reagan Paul's a big
Reagan
energy.
Paul does it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like her policies. I think her policies on energy are generally the right ones. I'm definitely not in favor of, building out anywhere on the coast. To be honest with you, not just the port that we've been talking about. Anywhere. There's no reason to. Bring in all these turbines and have floating wind
and they want to remove after that fruit fly.
No, that's okay.
We had some empty cans over there. I think that's causing the problem. So after the federal government's money dried up, the Mills administration auctioned off 440,000, and I can look it up too. It was 440,000 acres offshore property to be used for solar and wind. I believe it was Avangrid and Next.
Avangrid, yeah.
And another one, Next something.
Nextera.
Yeah.
Something
that
over there.
Purchased it, and they're dragging offshore wind now. Am I correct in that? I think. So if I go...
Yeah, so I mean, that's the problem is that we have advantaged I think the first problem, obviously, is that we've advantaged solar. So you take the 5 megawatt solar farms, we got ourselves a problem because, and I think everybody knows it at this point. You got a private contract, you're giving them more than double the wholesale rate, and then you tell, CMP to buy electricity from them. It's insane. We're taking losses all over the place, and it's usually in the name of, well, we have to strengthen the grid. Well, the grid is infrastructure. If we're going to strengthen the grid, we need to do a public-private partnership. We need to think about bonding. We need to do it the right way, as opposed to just like sticking it to the ratepayer like we do. We stick it to the ratepayer.
Well, I heard somebody bring up a good point, VOM there. I don't remember.
Voice of Maine?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Show.
Yeah, for sure. I listened to that. Ray Richardson quite a bit. They were remove the
Ray's
solar
good too.
wind subsidies.
Yep.
And apply that to increase the grid. And I'm not sure I agree with that either, because it's our high rates that are killing industry in Maine.
No,
We're a service industry state. We don't have manufacturing anymore. You've got a few potato manufacturers up north and a little sparse ones here or there. But even like Yankee Candle, is it Yankee Candle left? Yeah. Because it just costs too much to do business in Maine.
Yeah, it does. I mean, and we could, from the minimum wage on up, high taxation. We're killing people. It's ridiculous.
High cost of living.
High cost of living. Well, that's why. And the easiest thing was coming up with a tagline for my campaign: "Make Maine affordable." It's an affordability question. But yeah, we do need to. For me, infrastructure is something that you bond out. And because, again, like a lot of people worry about debt. Well, in Maine, we're in pretty good shape with the amount of debt that we have. And one thing about infrastructure is, if you then give the contracts to Maine companies, then you end up with something really positive, because those companies have employees and their families, and it just works, right? So I've never been afraid of bonding. I think there's a limit to it, and you just have to know where your limit is. But with the grid, I mean, the way that we're trying to stick it to current ratepayers now, it's absolutely the wrong approach, and all it does is it makes Maine unaffordable.
And the last rate increase to residential,
about 35%, and now they want $35. Did you see how they mixed that?
Yes.
35% before last year. Now on average $35 more on over my dead body.
And that last one was to save industry in Maine, because they were paying the lion's share of the subsidies, and they were going to stick it to them again.
Yeah.
And the only thing you could do was balance it out with the residential.
Well, I thought the best thing that happened during the beginning of this term was when the legislators went up on that Northern Maine tour, and that potato producer, he made copies of his February electricity bill.
McCrum?
I think it was McCrum. I can't remember for sure, but made copies. I got a copy of the bill, and the bill for that month was over $200,000.
Yeah.
And that should have, I mean, is it that only a Republican looks at the bill and says, "Oh my God, where's the left?" I mean, I just can't understand that, because again, when I was younger in the 90s, when I was in the legislature, there were conservative Democrats, and they would be alarmed by that sort of thing. And I could name names. I mean, they voted that way. We used to have,
and that's where all your young people.
There's still a couple people in the House that could tell you the stories, but we used to have like a Thursday night spaghetti dinner. And there was a Democrat from South Portland, Sammy DePietro. He made meatballs like you wouldn't believe. So we would have spaghetti and meatballs, and we'd sit around. The thing about that with Democrats from Biddeford, Democrats from Sanford, Saco, and the thing about those meetings were that when we realized, when we got up to 40 members, we realized if we leave here with some kind of agreement on a couple of these bills, even the leadership isn't going to be able to have enough power to do anything. They won't be whipping us, that's for sure. So that was the best thing that ever happened. Now you never see that.
Is that why the cafeteria's not open down there at State House? So you guys can't. So we can't. I say you guys. I'm part of the problem now. So we can't get together and have civil conversations like human beings.
Well,
seems like it, doesn't it?
It used to be we were called the 107 group because we met in this room 107 in the State House. And that's where we started. But then we went and we had dinners and stuff like that here, there, and everywhere. But it was a great group, and it lasted, 3, 4, 5 years, something like that. Dick Campbell will tell you.
Yeah.
Dick Campbell was there with me and some others, and it was so productive.
How do you bring it back?
Like I said, I think divided government, and if you have a governor that does threaten the veto, it's going to happen automatically because because they have to come to you. Because they've got to get 2/3 of a vote if there's a veto threat. They know that. So it's but you never see it now, right? But back then, it happened all the time. Between McKernan and that, when McKernan left and King came in, we kept going with the 107 group a little bit so that we'd have some leverage against him. He was independent, and we needed leverage.
Yeah, super.
And we ended up. I thought was pretty good. Like we ended up, he ended up having to come in and say, all right, Republicans, give me your top 3 issues that you want to pass. And then he went to the Democrats and he said the same thing. And one of ours that I worked on was lowering the sales tax. And that's pretty much the only rate reduction we've ever had in the state.
Where do you go from?
It went from 5.5 back down to 5. And now it's gone back up. But that was the reason it was successful. I had there were Democrats that lived near New Hampshire, like the Sanford. Sanford always used to be a Democrat town. Now it's changed quite a bit. Yeah. So, but those folks knew that all the license plates in New Hampshire at all the stores were Maine license plates. And, there's no sales tax over there. So they really wanted the sales tax to go down. And a lot of the businesses that are within 60, 70, 80 miles of the border, they used to get whacked, and they still do to some extent. A lot of people go over there, they buy groceries, they buy a new tractor, something like that. The tax laws have changed though. It used to be you could really get away with not paying sales tax. Now, Maine really catches up with you.
Well, I'm biting my tongue over here.
I bet you are.
My wife is very much a rule follower.
Yeah.
And that use tax really bothered her.
Oh, yeah,
and I'm like, whatever.
I know.
What am I supposed to do? Write everything off I bought in Iraq? Come on, really? No.
Yeah.
And I traveled all the time. And it really upset her. I'd be in Arizona or wherever, Huachuca, beautiful place, by the way.
Yeah.
She'd be like, oh, did you buy it? I'm like, no. I was working for the government. We're good.
We have a lot of ridiculous
now I'm gonna
little
get in trouble.
laws like that. Well, no, you won't get in trouble. A lot of people are going to admire that.
I think it's been more than 7 years, so I should be all set. But yeah, she's a rule follower, and that one really bothered her. She was, And I just, Maine.
Well, how do you like the one? Here's one for you, right? When you go to the polls to shake hands, right? And they're always trying to restrict that. But when you go to the polls to shake hands, you're not supposed to say what office you're running for.
All you can do is say your name. Hi.
Yeah, I'm sure that's constitutional, right? Telling me I can't say something. Like, how many people have come up to you and said, okay, well, what office are you running for? And you're like, I'm not supposed to say. These are the stupidest, these are the dumbest things that we do. And they're in law.
Yeah.
And that's because, unfortunately, Democrat leadership have got us to this point where we do stuff like that. The other one that drives me nuts is, there's a super PAC helping me, but I don't really know that they're helping. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Everybody knows.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's so ridiculous.
Money in politics. That bill, there was a bill to allow candidates they could mention the office they were running for. So only if asked.
I think that was my bill. I had.
Okay.
And that's what.
And the Secretary of State, the League of Women Voters, they were all against. They were all bad, and the amount of against letters say no. I'm like, it doesn't help one candidate over another. It just helps the public understand who you are and what you're running for.
Have you ever noticed in the State House that the Democrats bring the same 25 people to like every major?
Yes.
I call them the mannequins.
Yes.
Because they're like sitting there like a bunch of mannequins, and they always show up. And some of them I see some of them on commercials on TV. Like, I'm not going to say who, but there are even some auto dealers that have and they're the same people that show up at the State House. I guess they don't have jobs because they just show up at the State House all the time. And
that's crazy because it's only on one side. So
I know it is. We don't do it.
Cannabis and guns.
Yeah.
And I wasn't there for the big abortion battle. It was the 131st.
Yeah.
But I was there.
I wasn't either.
Okay. So cannabis and guns, you see both sides represented. Any other issue, it's one side. They have the free time. They're willing to be there.
Yeah. I was
they
in
have
office. I went this way.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Jesus, what they pull was just a joke.
Yeah, viability and after, or how is it worded? Viability and beyond.
Yeah.
And I'm a pro-choice person.
Yeah.
But that, at birth or up to birth and beyond just seems a little ridiculous. No, it doesn't seem a little. It is ridiculous. It's just wrong. It's flagrant. It's wrong.
Yeah.
And it goes back to my libertarian. It's your choice, but at a certain point, it's not yours. You're killing somebody.
Yeah.
It's inevitable.
Yeah.
It's a discussion worth having. It shouldn't be jammed down people's throats. And at this point, it shouldn't. In Maine, it's really not even an issue on the Republican side. Yes, it is, but it's not foremost right now because the state is choking to death on lack of jobs, overspending, immigration, young people leaving. There's just so many other huge hurdles to battle. The social issues have kind of fallen behind.
Yeah.
Nobody cares anymore if you're gay. Nobody cares. They care.
Why do we talk about it so much, though? Nobody cares.
Keep it,
I don't even want to know what people are doing with their personal lives. Good for them. Congratulations.
It's a talking point to get other people elected, like the whole woman's health.
Yeah. Reproductive health. Who funds it?
I'm not going to put in a bill to change it right now.
Yeah.
Right now I'm working on, energy, needles, drugs, crime.
Yeah.
And I think yourself, I don't want to speak for you, but I think everyone I talk to, that's usually, they'd like to see it dialed back from the viability point. But other than that, the issues are trying to keep living people alive, people who are actually walking, not the ones that are still in the womb. It's hard to even talk about.
It is. I usually tell people, I tell people that I recommend, and I get into like a little bit of a debate.
I have 4 kids, by the way. I didn't.
Yeah,
that's how.
With one of the members, I got into a little bit of a debate in the gubernatorial debate recently, and because what I'm willing to do is, if the legislature brought me a bill that banned abortion, what I'm willing to do is, I'm not willing to sign that. I'm willing to let it pass into law, because if it did, that means the majority of Mainers and, like both houses of the legislature have said, this is something we want to do. But I don't think, I think only liberals, or at least in my career, liberals are the ones that use government and force mandates down the throats of Maine people. Yeah. And I don't like it. And so I'm not willing to do it with the abortion issue. So you and I end up with almost the same kind of position, like.
Thank you. You said it much better than me. I kind of got tangled around my tongue there.
It's hard to talk about, we end up with the same kind of position. But, I don't think we'll ever come to that point. But should we ban late-term abortion and partial birth abortion? Yeah. There are lines that you just can't cross. Those are awful things.
Yep.
And so we need to do something about them. Yeah. But, that's a tough issue for any candidate. And now that it's been pushed down to the states, which is where it belongs, again, the left complained about Roe versus Wade, got rid of it. Well, guess what?
Take it back.
The more you push power down to the local level, the stronger the country. It's just a fact. And I believe that, the framers, the founders, that's what they wanted in the first place. They wanted to be a republic, a constitutional republic, not a democracy. A democracy when, it's like one person, one vote everywhere. No, we have the best system in America, the Electoral College. And what it does is it creates an even playing field for the rural states. And, states like Maine would get crushed if we had to go to that. So, it's so bad that people have backed off on that issue recently. I'm glad they have.
That was another issue that came up just this last session.
Right.
Yeah. And it was unanimous or equal. It was bipartisan. That it got put to bed. Yeah. So what do you think of this yes on one? How are we going to do?
We're going to do great. I saw that poll recently. It's pretty much dead heat right now, according to the polling. It's still early.
Like 1 point or something.
There were quite a few undecided at the bottom of that poll. I think there's there's plenty of room to operate there. I personally think that most people feel comfortable presenting an ID, and I know that in the 30 some odd other states that do it, there isn't any trouble with ballot access amongst shut-ins or the elderly or anything like that. These states, they bend over backwards to make sure those people vote. And that's the way it should be, right? But if instead you're using, which is what the left often does, they'll use a few small examples and they'll try to cloud the whole debate and conversation.
Well, that whole question coming up. So
I think we can win. A question. When I say we, I mean Maine.
Yes, agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
When that came up, of course, you start doing a little bit of homework to understand why they're so set against it. I didn't realize that December 1st, 2025, if you request an absentee ballot, you can request an absentee ballot for perpetuity for the rest of your life, and one will just be mailed to you, regardless.
Well, we're going to get rid of that, my friend.
Well, that's insane.
Well, and the other thing that, what I think is it goes under the radar, nobody talks about, but I do. Motor voter. When you go to
again?
Motor voter. So if you go to the DMV, if you're going to get your driver's license, automatically you're now put on the voting roll.
Yes.
That's going to end.
You call that motor voter. Okay.
Motor voter.
Yeah.
I don't believe in it. And I tell you why, because it's been manipulated. That's how, when...
You also get registered at any state subsidy office.
Yeah.
So if you go to any kind of DHS or any other kind of general assistance, general assistance.
So it was under the guise of we want more people voting, and voting is yes, it is. We're so lucky in America that we can afford. Some people can afford not to vote. They shouldn't. They should vote, right? But when Shanna Bellows was asked, and everyone's seen this video, when she was asked, "Are there any illegal voters on the voting roll?" and she was kind of like, "Well, yeah, this sounds
just
good."
a few.
Well, guess how they got through?
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was at least part of them a motor voter because they just automatically go over there, and then there's actually supposed to be set up a process that stops that name from being sent over, and I'm just trying to figure out why that process isn't working.
Well, they get pre-registered, so when they become a citizen, they can automatically be in the system.
Yeah.
And then what was the requirement for the citizenship is just a checkbox.
Yeah.
Yes, I am a citizen.
Yeah.
And then I've also heard, so I worked the polls before I ran for an office. I worked the polls since 16, whatever it was. And one person said, yeah, I can vote because I pay taxes. Where do you pay taxes? Sales tax when you go and buy a soda or whatever. Yeah. So therefore you're part of. Yeah, that was insane when I heard that. But they get to go through because the poll watch, that's another shortfall, Republican Party or even Libertarian or Green or whatever.
Every citizen, like I said earlier, we should bend over backwards to make sure that they can't vote. Every non-citizen, we should bend over backwards to make sure that they can't vote because they're not.
We should also bend over backwards and be a part of the whole system.
Yeah.
I was going to say there's a lack of people from our party or from any other party willing to go and be a poll watcher or go in and working as a register or any of it.
Well, it was a little bit better I thought this last election cycle was a little bit better. We had more people at the polls than I usually see. And it's funny. I think that one great thing that President Trump did was he brought the working class into the Republican Party more than they were. A lot of people think of, blue collar Democrat. Well, no, they're coming in and I think that they're understanding conservative values. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I think that all relates. I think that all relates. I think that people that work have a hard time volunteering at these polls. And
yeah, for sure.
Well, that's what I'm. That's kind of beat around to get to it. But that to me is one of the bigger problems that we have. Is I think Republicans, just like anyone else, a Democrat, an Independent, a Green, we're great at volunteering. Americans volunteer. We raise money for all kinds of things. We want to volunteer for the polls, but some people just don't have the time. I mean, I work 3 jobs. My wife works 2. We've been doing that for years. And it's hard to find the time to do things sometimes.
I put in for the time off a year in advance.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I got to do something because it's just part of me. I joined the military for that reason. It's just, I'm not happy with the way things are going. So I figure you can either bitch or do something about it.
Yeah. I think, first of all, thanks for your service.
Oh, no. Thank the wife and kids. This is a huge thing
thanks to
for
them
me.
too, then.
Yeah, thank them.
But I'll never forget this. Like when I first started as a college professor, I started at St. Joseph's full time. I had a bunch of part-time jobs, but they hired me full time.
Part-time jobs teaching?
Yes. I was teaching both K to 12. I was substituting. And then I was doing adjunct work as a professor. This is in the middle 80s. And I was working at Corning at the same time. So I was doing a bunch of these jobs. And so St. Joe's hired me full time. I'll never forget this one female that was in one of my classes, pretty much the worst student that I had, right? And she went, because she kind of flunked out, she went into the military. Well, about 4 years later, she came back and she came into my class and she was the best student I had. Mm-hmm. And they taught her not just life, but she learned other things there, and she learned how to learn. And that was a really, we joked about it a lot back then, about the change in her. And so I've always felt like, the military is not for everybody, but I'm sure part of those people that it is for. But again, I think that it's just, that's the kind of service that really, it helps them and it helps us.
The military has such a wide spectrum of jobs. I mean, you've got payroll, office clerks, all the way to grunts. That's what I did.
Yeah.
And there's a job there for anyone. I think everyone, and then an opportunity to get outside of here, because you hear too many times how awful America is. Well, I've been in houses that were made out of rocks and dirt floors where they pick through the dump to try to feed themselves.
Yeah.
I don't think America's that bad. And racist, when you see other people enslaved, just because of their religion or just because of, that's not happening here.
But you're right about the jobs,
it is happening.
My father, we were talking about earlier, so he was in World War II and he was actually at Normandy. And the reason I bring that up is because he was really good with cars and engines. So he took a bunch of classes, physics classes and machinery, equipment, learned how to do everything. And so he ended up being a ship's engineer. So he made sure that that his battalion got there. Well, look, he never told me much about, I always said, geez, Dad, you're at Normandy? That's unbelievable. Tell me. And he wouldn't tell me anything. Well, before he passed, he was almost in his 90s. When he told me that the reason he never talked about it was because some of his best friends that were on the ship had to storm the beach while he stayed back with the boat, right? He was in the Coast Guard. He stayed back with the boat. Well, when they all jumped out and they had all that equipment on their back and all that stuff, and there were hundreds of thousands of people in the water, a lot of them drowned right there and there. And he watched them drown. And his father got shot in World War I in the trenches. And luckily he came back, he had a limp all his life and carried a bullet in his leg. So, I mean, ugly. the things that people learn in the military, you can't learn some of those things anywhere else. But my theory is, I bet you'll agree with this. My theory is that 2 generations in a row had been through hell with World War I and World War II. And when they came back in the 50s, they wanted to create the best possible society that they could. And I think that's sometimes why they're called the greatest generation, because they actually did. And at first, everybody was wearing like suits and ties in the street, right? But there was this mutual respect and admiration of your neighbor, no matter what their political ideology, for a long, long time. And I grew up in the 60s, and it started to change a little bit. There were some radical hippie type people, and, God bless them. They're good people. But
are they the same ones out there doing the No Kings rally?
I don't know, but on the way to Augusta today, I went to Augusta and then on to Waterville to my job. I saw a couple of those bridge protests, so they all stand up on a bridge. Today.
Oh,
so
okay.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, first of all, they're on a bridge without a sidewalk. So I don't know how they're doing that, but there were a lot of people across 295.
Yeah.
And in the Cumberland area today, there were just, I don't know, there was probably, I'm going to say there was 100 people up there with signs. And in the overpass, so you look up while you're driving, and there they are, right? And they've got, all the No King stuff and all the,
Dedicated.
Well, good for them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good for them. I don't agree.
I don't either. I don't see this as a king. It's a terrible name. I guess if you wanted to say no Trump, no whatever, pick it. But kings, this is hardly a monarchy or even close to one. He's got 2 years left.
Of course not. And I think, it always bothers me because I do read the Bible, and there's a lot of references to kings that are really positive. Yeah, the positive. And of course they're looking at it as negative. And it's we don't have a king of the United States, so I don't know why people think that. It's
caught
ridiculous.
On with some people.
Yeah. And I think they must have forgot that we have separation of powers, and right now we in the United States have that trifecta where we've got a Republican president, you got a Republican Congress, both the Senate and the House, but that doesn't happen all the time. You have to deal with all of the previous appointments of judges, and a lot of them are from the left or whatever, and so there's always some way to kind of offset one party taking over and going crazy. But in Maine, no. In Maine, we've had Democrat leadership for so long that now they're going to these bills and they're saying, pornography is okay and this is okay. And that's
the child porn AI thing blew my mind.
Yeah. Well, that's where I always thought that so you came in the 132nd?
Correct.
Yeah. So
I haven't even finished my first session.
I think you'd have worked with me in the 131st because, I had the book bill, and all the librarians call it the ban the book bill, right? So, but all my bill sought to do was take the pornographic pages and either blank those out or take the whole book and put it on reserve so that only
I remember
the only
that bill.
kids.
Yep.
Yeah, that was my bill. So only if a child was going to look at that, they would have to have parental permission.
Some of the stuff in those books was pretty graphic and disgusting.
And you know what bothered me the most about that, Quentin, is that then and I didn't anticipate this, but as a result of the bill, all these librarians had a less read a banned book week.
Oh, gross.
In the schools. Let's read a banned
book. Can you imagine reading that to a kid?
No, it's disgusting.
It's so gross, I don't even want to say it here.
It's disgusting.
Look them up.
It's like every act that you want to learn about was in them.
With siblings, there was incest in one of them.
Yep, and that stuff has no place in school.
I don't understand.
No.
In my opinion,
Democrats are in charge.
Social issues don't really have a place in the school.
Yeah.
ABCs. Currently, we have a high graduation rate, but our reading, writing, arithmetic levels are below. I mean, what are we, 32%?
Yeah.
That can read at a fourth grade level?
Yeah.
That's pretty sad. High school graduates. Yeah. That's really terrible.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And proficiency.
Well, we're in the bottom 5 states no matter what metric.
We're at the top of the worst and the bottom of the best.
Yeah. No. Yeah, that's a disadvantage of being on the Education and Cultural Affairs Committee, because when the Republicans on the committee come up with ideas, they're quickly just trounced.
What do you think of this whole, as an educator, and you have a background in it, so we're going from the Mills administration requested the Department of Education to drop the proficiency learning model and go to the evidence-based learning model. And I'm not sure that's, at first I was like, yeah, it's about time, of course, just knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, I'm kind of like, does it really help anything?
We don't have good measurement, Quentin. So the first thing I would say is, I said that too, like the first time I heard that we were, going to double back and really teach kids math and English and science and, STEM and everything else that they need to know. I thought, well, okay, 20 million that the governor wants to put into that. All right, but how are we going to measure the results? And the problem is that they've messed up the state, what used to be the MEA test.
Yep.
That
was under LePage?
No, this is all since LePage. So what happened was during COVID, they stopped giving the exam, and the federal government and the Biden administration sent us a letter and said, you're going to be fined for this. And so we were on
Really?
the Republicans. Oh yeah, this is about 3 years ago. The Republicans on the committee were like, well, it's about time. Even the Democrats in Washington are saying that, what we're doing in Maine is bad. And it was. We're not assessing. So then when they came back with a test, they took what's called the NUIA test.
Yeah.
So that NUIA test, they took that test, which is a national test, and then the State Department of Education added their own questions to it. They did a so-so job on that, but the measurement problem is pretty technical. But the problem is this: when they had the exams in the schools this fall, they told schools that if you have, and this is regular ed kids, if you have a student who has been working in the classroom with additional aids and supplements, they can have them for the test. And then if you look at the list of the aids, multiplication tables they can use during the test, addition tables, fraction tiles.
Making it nearly impossible to get an answer wrong.
Well, you'd think that, but what they're really trying to do is the scores are so bad that the Mills administration is trying to push the scores back up by basically cheating on their own test.
Yeah, you get an election.
That's what it is. You get an election coming up.
Everybody sees it.
Oh, and I can tell you this from because I talked to a lot of teachers. Well, the first thing is some of the schools decided we're not going to do that, and they just the student can bring a pencil to the test, or if it's online, they can use they can click through a bubble exam, and those are your results. But some schools read that literally, and it was a change. But this has been going on for the last 2 years. They keep changing it. And so what happens is if you keep changing exams and the way they're taken, they're not scientifically measurable over time. So we're not going to be able to, the $20 million that we're putting into this new program, we're not going to be able to adequately measure how these kids are doing, because for one thing, they probably will come up with better test scores this year because they're using multiplication tables while they're taking the exam. That's literally what they're doing. Ask any teachers group, and like I said, some of the districts decided we're not going to do that because this is our job, but a lot of the districts are just doing it anyway.
I have to ask my wife. She's a math teacher.
Yeah, so the way it reads, I can actually send the language to you. It's in the directions for the NUIA, the new what's called the Through the Years exam. It's in the directions, and so and
this is the first year that they're doing
this is the first year the directions changed this radically.
I gotcha. Okay.
The directions have changed so radically that now so what they say is you got to get two teachers together and they need to agree that this student should have an aid, supplements. And like I said, those supplements include multiplication tables and tiles and all this other stuff. Abacus can be used. That's true. That's one.
Kids know how to use an abacus.
I don't know. Jesus, I don't know.
I'd give them extra credit for that. I'm not sure I could use one anymore.
We probably should boost the score right there. But that's on there. And so it's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for the state of Maine. This is my third term total on the education committee because I'm an educator. I'm glad that I'm on it, but watching this stuff, it's like a circus.
So I met with our superintendent here, current one.
Yeah, me too, by the way. I met with your superintendent in
Super
Auburn.
Nice woman, yeah.
She is a nice woman.
Yeah, super nice woman.
And she gets it.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
It's just I'm a Neanderthal. I just see a problem. I'm a hammer, and every problem's a nail. It just needs to be hammered down, right? Yeah. So, thank God for my wife. She has grace. Why she puts up with this Neanderthal, I don't know. But I see a problem, and I just want to fix it. And I
do too.
I don't understand it.
Yeah.
It's broken. And to me, it all seems like it stems back to too much attention, too much time, too much labor spent on social issues. And it started, to me, and I could be way wrong. Mind you, I was probably
you're
in a different country.
No.
But the No Child Left Behind under Clinton. Was it Clinton? Yeah, it was. It was Hillary. No Child Left Behind. It started.
That started with George W. Bush, but the Clintons were involved.
Was it Barbara? Or George?
George W.
Yeah,
so
he
Barbara's
was the
son.
No Child Left Behind.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So it started there,
yep.
And then it just progressed, and then you had, we're going to rewrite history. Well, history is history. You can't rewrite it. You can only tell it as it is because it already happened. You can't change it. And then it just went bananas.
Yeah.
And then COVID, and you had two classes during COVID. Two types of people. You had those that were working. I was working 80 hours a week. I was running three. So I work for a chain of liquor stores. I was running three of those stores, two full-time, one part-time. I was doing all the ordering, all the receiving, all the records, everything, employees. And we went from, 85 employees to 15 and stayed open. It was amazing, right? Because we were essential employee. Why everybody left, I don't know. But so I stayed. And then you had the other half of people that were home and were homeschooling their kids or trying to. There was a block. And so it just went melee after that. It went
when No Child Left Behind, it was replaced in 2017 with Every Student Succeeds, I think was what the act was called. That was Obama. And so ever since then, we've really had, I think, in Maine anyway, more concern about making sure tummies were full and making sure that, that kids understood how to, accept those people around them. And I think I'm all for diversity and inclusion. It's the equity part that's undefined in Maine that we really need to do something about. This whole idea that some people think, equity to me is equality of opportunity. Equity to somebody on the left is completely different.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
And that's something that, I think if we communicate it well, people of Maine will join us and say, you're right. Because a lot of people that are not really political and are unenrolled, for example, there's a lot of voters unenrolled. They kind of feel like we do. They don't want some kind of a Robin Hood society where, we're trying to finance everything with a few rich people. Guess what happens? Nothing like socialism to cause an implosion, right? And that's really what we're fighting. And
that was very well said, by the way. That whole Robin Hood mentality.
Well, I don't think people ever do the math. If a fraction of your income is taxed and a fraction of my income and a fraction of somebody else's, you're not going to be able to fund social issues and fund society at these idealistic levels that people on the far left want to. So, socialists like Bernie Sanders that are running around really fanning the flames this year. I can't believe Bernie Sanders is back, but anyway, he's back.
I know.
Oh, how did that happen? Yeah. But anyway, he's back. And I don't usually name names, but we've got a candidate here named Graham Platt.
Oh yeah.
His signs are everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
His poll. Did you see that poll?
Oh, yeah. 58-24 against Mills.
And I really want people to understand, everybody wants free stuff, and it's human nature, right? But once you do the math, if people could just understand that budgets will be imploding. That's what happened in Venezuela. That's what happens everywhere where people try that. There's not enough money, like Greece. How about when Greece basically folded upon itself? Why did that happen? Because more than 50% of the people that lived in Greece were working for the government. So that's the tipping point. That's where the math stops. We can't be everything to everyone. And in fact, if you want to be everything to everyone, teach them how to make their way on their own and to make money and value added. Teach them how. And I that's the way I was raised. How about you?
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Yeah.
No, well, I take that back. So my parents didn't work. They didn't go to work. They lived off the system.
Yeah.
And
but mine didn't.
I had to figure it out for myself.
Yeah.
And at a certain point I said, well, I can live this lifestyle or I can go work hard.
Yeah.
And I built this. I didn't hire anybody.
Yeah.
My
father built our house himself.
Yeah.
My father built our house himself.
I fought through all the codes. I fought through all the bureaucracy.
Why do we
That's
have
another
that?
issue.
Yeah. Why do we have that?
It's over the top. And
But we have. So the reason I'm here is because I'm running for governor, right? And there's some really good people in. That are competing.
Well, you know what,
and I like
Jim,
them.
I will say this. I want to cut you off, and I apologize.
No, it's good.
I like talking to people. I like hearing different perspectives. So I would hope that even if you weren't running for governor, that possibly in a different timeline, maybe you and I would be shooting the shit anyway.
and cracking a beer here pretty soon. But whatever it is, but what I want to point out is that there's two. Like I'm the opposite of one guy who I think's a really good candidate. So there's this one person that's a really good candidate, and the first thing he says, even on his commercials, is, I was on food stamps and I was this and I was that. And you can tell that he's proud of the fact that he was able to fight his way out of that. And he's now, and became, a very successful business person and a family man. And he should be proud. I'm just as proud that over my entire life, I have never, ever collected an unemployment
And you
check.
should be. And you should be happy
Thank
and
you.
proud.
I work my tail off.
It's become a victim society.
Yeah,
so you have to show how you...
Yeah, this is my way. I mean, like I'm going to work no matter what. Like, so if my employer closed tomorrow, and sometimes colleges close, I would go to work the next day. I would find a way to put food on the table for my family. So that's why I have never collected any unemployment in my entire career. And I'm so proud of that. And I try to teach that ethic to my kids. I got 2 kids. I also, and they also have faith, and they're really successful. We just took, my son is a senior at Bon Eagle.
That is the best thing. Having successful kids or kids.
I know.
It's just...
My wife, I credit my wife, like you do too, right? We married up, and that's good, right? That's
I
good.
definitely married up. It took me 4 tries. The last one gets it. All my kids are great kids, and they do really well.
Yeah.
But boy, I was a train wreck on the first 3.
Yeah.
I was starting to catch on the bottom 2. But
I had mine really late in life. So my
helps.
first child, I was 45. That was my first child.
No kidding.
Yeah, my first child.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and my daughter's now in college, and so she's out in Nashville and at a music school. And I'm really kind of worried about getting her back because in Nashville they don't have income tax. She's going to get used to that. And, And anyway, and my son also,
too.
I just took him last weekend to Notre Dame for a visit. That's how good his grades are. So I'm really proud of my kids, and I want that to, in whatever way, what makes people happy. I just want people to have successful families. I don't care what direction they go, and I want them to choose their own path. And in state government now, they try to choose the path for you.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example. A lot of people criticize me for being opposed. I used to be a community college trustee, but I was opposed to the free community college, and I got some criticism for that. And I used to try to explain to people, look, there are kids that want a baccalaureate degree, and actually about 48% of the nation's children that go to school go for a 4-year degree, and then about 20 some odd percent go for a trade school, right? But now what I think happened in Maine is a lot of those people went to trade school, or they went to the community college system because it was free. Now, some of them went on and transferred, and they're getting their 4-year degree now, or they did last year or whatever. And that's all fine. But my point is, I just want people to choose their own way. I don't want us to present incentives for kids to go one way or another. I'm not saying that helping kids is bad. That's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, right? So when I get in there, I really want I have a first-year promise program in my platform. In Maine, with that free community college system, it's actually called a last dollar system. So first you have to apply for the Pell Grant and every single other scholarship. And when you've totaled that all up, if there's any cost left to go to the community college, we've been paying for that. The state has. So that program costs 20 some odd million or whatever. And that last dollar program isn't that expensive. But what I'd like to see, instead of paying their whole way through in the community college, let kids choose. And this is the way I am in K-12 too. One of my bills was the Arizona School Choice Bill.
Yeah, I love it.
Let kids go where they want to go. Let them go where they want to go, and let the money follow them.
Yeah.
In Arizona, you can open up your computer and you can see how much money is in there out of your tax dollars that are going towards your kids.
Yep.
I think that's
Competition's
fantastic.
Healthy. And
yeah. I think that's fantastic. So I don't know any other way to put it other than and here's something that I do that I think is good.
They're so adamant against it.
Yes, but here's something I do. Like So some people don't. Some candidates, they won't meet with the teachers union. I meet with them and I say to them, I'm for school choice, and I'm not going to support. I know you want the right to strike. These are kids. I'm not going to support that. So you have to, I think you still meet people with them, and you actually try to find common ground. And when you're not going to be able to reach that, you just tell them, look, this is my position, and this is one of those that I'm not moving off of it because I believe in it, So
yeah, be honest, be upfront, be forward. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that.
Yeah. So anyway,
is it important?
No,
these silly phones.
I'm trying to shut it off. We don't need to be interrupted.
I muted mine. I forgot to do it at the beginning. Phones, technology.
Yeah. That must have been the bat phone call.
Did you? Did you ledge counsel today? Did you lose any bills?
I lost all 3 of my bills. So
same here.
Well, here's the way I like to put it, right? So the criteria is it an emergency? Mm-hmm. So apparently the Democrats had 78 emergencies and we had 12. Yeah. That's not true. But the bills that I put in, so you'll recognize some of them because people have been talking about them online. I put in that AI pornography bill.
That was you.
Yeah. Well, me and a Democrat. They didn't pass either one of us. We had the same bill.
No kidding.
Yeah, we had the same bill.
Why? And why would they shoot it down? Was there? They don't have to. They don't
have a good reason. But now because they got attacked in the last 24 hours. They're backpedaling and they're saying, "Oh well, we're going to have a bill with like a concept draft, and don't worry, we'll take care of it." Oh yeah, right. That's the way the Democrats work. They say that and then they don't do
it, even though it's supposed to be an emergency.
Yes, there are concept drafts. I can't figure that out either. No, it's crazy.
Okay.
So the other bill I had in, I want people to know this. I had a bill in that would create a 10-year moratorium on tearing down dams.
Yep.
And we need time for the groups to get together. I'm meeting with SAPI next week, and I've already met with the town of Skowhegan, the town manager, and their economic development director, and everybody up to. There's 5,000 jobs in that region that are dependent on SAPI. They either feed SAPI or they work for SAPI. So why would we even? Why? Yeah. Why
in the name of climate?
I don't know. It's crazy.
God?
So anyway, so I'm looking for middle ground. So I did research. There are some in the country of Sweden. They have a new kind of fish passage that starts about a half mile down below. And it's more natural, so the fish don't get damaged. Like they do. Some of our fishways are ridiculous. Obviously, fish can't even scale up there. And you lose some species. And I understand all that.
Does the SAPI one have a pretty advanced
fish ladder? There's 4 dams, but there's an elevator and a fish ladder. There's both. Oh. And they truck some of them.
Okay.
And they truck some of the fish. And I appreciate all that, but I do think it's worth, I'd rather spend a couple million on a fishway than have a whole region decimated.
Yeah.
That's what they're talking. They're going to decimate the whole region. That group that bought the 4 dams, I'm just going to call them an environmental advocacy group.
Sure.
Because I don't want to name names. That is the most selfish purchase I've ever heard in Maine, because they've got one thing and one thing only in mind, and they don't care about the economic damage that it's going to do. The families that are going to suffer as a result of that plan, there's tens of thousands, probably 100,000 people in that region that are going to suffer if. And believe me, it's taken a long time I grew up in the era where everybody in my neighborhood worked for SAPI and International Paper before that in Westbrook. And they were proud of it.
Oh, yeah.
And,
it was Statler Tissue in Augusta.
Yeah, and we probably needed to work with them on smokestack scrubbers and all this other stuff. Yeah, we probably did as a state, but we pushed them out of here. We pushed them out.
So where are the high-paying jobs now? I want to keep going on the dams. It's just me making observations.
They'll be gone.
They are gone.
In Westbrook, all you got left is there are people that do research and in the paper coating industry and all of that. But there's I talked to somebody just the other day that still works at Westbrook, but they got that whole plant sitting there kind of rotting away. At some point, we'll have to do something about that plant. And so, all of the, there's a lot of empty, there's still a lot of empty mills along rivers in Maine. And you know what? I want to convert them into energy production. And
some right down the road.
Even if they're one at a time. In my district, there's a building it's been a disaster for years in Parsonsfield.
Mm-hmm.
But it was at one time a factory. So now it's sitting there empty and all that stuff. Well, people go in there, they start fires. And, well, those need to be put into productive use. So we need to provide the kind of seed capital. So the state of Maine should be about seeding good growth. It shouldn't be about building 100% of the homes or something, which is, our housing policy currently is ridiculous because in essence, we're in some areas of the state, we're paying for the entire cost of the housing, and then we're putting people in the housing, and then we're paying for them to be in the housing.
I know.
And then we're giving them food as well. I mean, and for a while there, we were funding illegals that way. I mean, come on. And so we cannot do that in the state of Maine, and we shouldn't. But seeding money so that people that work the hard-working housing construction sector, the private citizens that are out there working their tails off, make it easier for them to, take a contract. And we do need on the supply side, we need to construct houses. Let's do it. That will drive prices down, but let's do it from the private sector. And I mean, like we still haven't talked about healthcare insurance, but certainly same thing. I mean, the private sector is a big part of the answer.
Can I tell you a story about that? This is kind of funny. I remember. So I currently, because military retired, I get my health insurance through that, and when. The last time I bought health insurance was way back when in 1990, whatever, right? So I'm sitting in the office, corporate office. The conversation about health insurance comes up, and I'm hearing these terms like $7,500 deductible, and insurance, all these things that everybody knows well. I didn't. And I go, what in the hell are you guys talking about? Because I'm like, this doesn't even sound like insurance. And at that point, you got fined if you didn't buy into this scam. And I still see it to this day. A friend of mine had triple bypass surgery. Well, he had the triple bypass surgery late in the year. They didn't bill him till the next year. So his money he had paid in for the previous year didn't count towards the insurance. He had to cough up another whatever it was for the
Yeah, that's not the answer. I mean, the answer is honestly, so the first thing I want to do is just describe what the problem is. The biggest problem is that we have 405,000 people on Maine
different
Care.
insurance. Yep.
And because that's the publicly paid insurance, right? The hospitals and other healthcare providers that are out all over Maine, some of them don't even take Maine Care clients. Some of them don't because they get they're reimbursed at a 70% rate. It was a little bit higher during COVID, but they get reimbursed below cost. So what that means is that all of the price increases and the only price increases that hospitals, for example, can achieve would have to go to the private sector. So it's this vicious cycle of the bigger the Maine Care pot gets, the more burden there is on everybody else that has private insurance. And so as a result, like I work in Waterville and Inland Hospital closed. Mm-hmm. And 3 of the hospitals that just recently got bought, including Bridgeton Hospital and Central Maine, right? So those hospitals got purchased because they were bought at a bargain basement price by a private equity firm.
Out of California.
Yeah, and they're just going to, ring them out and try to get money out of them. And then, this has to stop. So the first thing we have to do is move some of those people in the expansion line that are single, that don't have kids, and here they are on Maine Care. Those people need to be moved back in the private sector insurance. We need to help insurers make sure, and there's nothing wrong with a little bit of, again, back to seed money, seed capital, a little bit of help to make sure you can, grease the wheels and reformat the system to the way it was. And so that is that is the biggest problem that we have. So it's going to require time, because I don't believe in just throwing people off a system. Like, I'm just not that way.
The welfare cliff.
Yeah. So if there's only 180 some odd thousand people on New Hampshire care, and we've got 400,000, obviously we have to move closer to 200,000, and we should do that in a humane way. And there is a second option, a partially subsidized insurance, to help somebody wean off and start to get used to being back in the private sector. But that's really what it's all about. So, and I have experience in that. So back in the 90s, every single insurer for workers' comp left the state. Every insurer.
Oh, I didn't know that.
100% of insurers, they all left the state. So
state covers workmen's comp then?
Well, no, the private insurers left. So yes, that's what happened. So you must have heard of Maine Employers Mutual Company, MEMIC, right? Yep. So we created MEMIC from scratch, and here's how we did it. So we created MEMIC, and then we told every employer. So we had really high accident rates. And Maine, made up of lumber yards and sawmills, and people were getting their legs cut off and stuff. We had really high accident rates, and that's why everybody left. Small population, no profit. I'm not staying in Maine if I'm an insurer, workers' comp insurer. So what we did was we created Maine Employers Mutual, and we said right then, we're going to spin this off, and it's going to be private eventually. But in the meantime, you're going to sign up Maine businesses, but we're going to ask you to let our safety team come in and look at your shop, and we're going to work with you. We're not going to mandate anything. We're going to work with you and suggest ways to get your safety, the percentage of people that are injured on the workplace down. We're going to get it down. And in the first 5 years, every single year, that accident rate went significantly down. And as a result, the premium started to go down. And then in about 10 years after we started that thing, the insurers came back. The other insurers came back to the state, and they're still here today. So for people that don't think that experience matters, it really does, because I went through all of that and I worked on that issue, and I know how it works. And that's one of the things about being a PhD professor. Republicans we don't want, that's bad.
That is scary for sure.
Yeah, well, I'm the one that's teaching your kid free market economics. And did you see that thing that the Maine Wire did this survey of professors? 65% of professors or something like that are Democrats, registered Democrats.
Hence the fear of
5% are registered Republicans. So you're looking at one of them. And I tell people when I go on the stump, I'm like, hey, I'm teaching your kid free market economics. And that's what goes into, when I do system analysis, that's what goes into my thinking. It's a kind of a logic. And I learned that from cases like MEMIC. And that's why I have the plan that I do for Maine Care. It's not that I don't care. It's that people are happier out in the working world, and raising a family and owning a home. And these are goals that every human being has. And we need to allow people to do that. And instead, what government's doing is they're providing the opposite incentives currently. So those incentives are going to go away. Again, like if I were the governor and Democrats controlled the Senate and the House, I'd still be able to say to them, if you want one bill to get through here, you better work with me on this problem. Because guess what? Maine Care is not single-payer health care. And I know you thought it was, but you were wrong. And goes back to that implosion thing. The government implodes when it starts paying for every single thing that you need in life. It implodes.
And that's the lion's share of our budget, correct? Maine Care?
Well, main care and education, those are two. Education, I think, at times has been slightly higher in terms of the
Currently?
budget pie. Yeah, slightly higher, just slightly. They're about the same. They're basically the
kidding.
same. Yeah. So, we pay a lot for education. If you look at from A to Z, from everything that we are involved with, it costs a lot of money.
So do you, it's similar on the same topic, but so Maine recently has joined a pool of other states in the healthcare industry. I'm trying to think of how it was worded. I read about it a little bit, but there's not a lot of information like readily available. We're with New York, Massachusetts, and we're part of a new health network. Is that correct?
I'm just learning about that too,
Okay.
Quentin.
So it's
I'm
still
not
new.
interested in anything to do with New York and Massachusetts, to be frank with you, because they got similar problems that we have. The only thing in Massachusetts doing right, I have to say, is on every scale, on every measurement, their education is in the top 5.
No kidding.
They were number 1 last year, and their NAEP scores, which is that random test that they give to some schools in Maine and all the other 50 states. All 50 states, and they went from last to first, while we went from first to last. The last 30 years is about what that was. And we had some really good education commissioners back in the 90s. They were really good, and I'll never get McKern, and this guy named Martin, he just really understood kind of the balance between what the Democrats were trying to push and what the Republicans were trying to push. And he just met in the middle, and he was focused on the basics, which is what's more important than that, right? The person that followed him up under King, he was adequate enough. He did a good job. And he was also still focused on testing and the basics. And we got, during that period is when we actually created the document that is today the Maine Learning Results. And I was on the education committee when that was created. And I think the mistake that we've made over the years is being focused on what to teach instead of how to teach it.
Oh, yeah.
Like we know, if you look at the Maine Learning Results, every single class every course you could possibly take is detailed in there. Now, not everybody takes personal finance, and I think they should. I do.
I do too.
When kids graduate.
My wife would agree with you as well.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people in Maine, I don't think that's a partisan thing.
She teaches personal finance.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that, but that's good. I mean, she's helping because kids, there's so many things that they need to know about risk. I mean, when people say, well, you teach them about balancing a budget and how to write a checkbook and all that stuff, but insurance and the transfer of risk and all of that those are things that are really important. And it's hard to get experience in that way when you're young. So it requires really good teachers. It requires really good teachers. So we can do that, and we should in high school. Not, I shouldn't be. We have entering classes where I work at Thomas College, and by the way, I'm very lucky to work. I love that place, and I've always been accepted there as somebody who is conservative. It's great. So. We shouldn't be providing a lot of remedial help to these poor kids. They come with very poor math skills. They don't even write that well, to be honest with you. And we've got this entire department. I call it the Department of Scaffolding, because we provide all this stuff to kids that they didn't get in high school but should have.
Yep.
And so when people ask me about the system, I'm able to tell them, because I taught 2 years of math in Sanford High School, and I've been in higher ed, and I've been working on a lot of the problems. I've written white papers, and I've written a PhD thesis on Maine schools. So, I mean, I've done all that, and I know how the system works. So, and I can tell you the number one problem is, I bet it's not what you think it is. But if you think about it, I bet you'll agree.
Number one problem with the school system?
Yeah. It's not the school. It's absenteeism.
Oh, that's a big problem. Yep.
It's the number one problem.
It's accountability.
Yeah. Yes, because that's the larger problem, is accountability.
I mean, I think I read something today about that, the absenteeism.
Yeah, and
parents,
because here's what happens.
I don't necessarily completely agree with that, but I portionally.
Right. Well, if you look at the way the system works, right, most schools, believe it or not, they have a group of teachers and administrators that serve on a committee, and the committee will sometimes they'll meet once a month on truancy, and so they really need to meet more than once a week, to be honest with you, but they meet once a month, and they'll look at the cases, and some kid will have missed 20 classes.
Is there a truancy officer anymore?
Yes.
There is.
It's usually assigned to somebody at the school, like it could be a
So it's
teacher.
not an actual officer.
No,
of the
it could
law.
be a teacher, or it could be a mid-level administrator or whatever.
Okay.
But there are people responsible. They are the truancy officer, but it's not a police officer.
Okay.
However, if a kid misses a lot of days, eventually they call the parents in, and then if they miss more days, they do a visit, and that
Does that still happen?
yeah, it happens, but it happens in only the extreme cases. So some kids miss 70. We had this one kid and I won't name the district, but kid missed 55 classes in 1 year. And so we actually got the DHHS involved, and they did a knock. And then the parents were really forced to send their kids to school for the rest of that year. The next year, that same kid missed more than 70 classes. So, like nothing happened, nothing improved. And there wasn't follow-up. And my number one criticism of the DHHS, and this has a big role to play in foster care and these kids that have died while in state custody, the follow-up by the DHHS, while it's improving now, it's only improving because of the pressure that they've been under.
Public scrutiny.
Yeah, the public scrutiny. It really is Bill Diamond again. Bill Diamond and his report. I went to his home and met with he and Jane, and mostly him, obviously. But
I never had the pleasure of meeting him.
he had a beautiful home in Wyndham.
Heard nothing but nice things.
Well, his best friends were always Republicans, which always
Jeff
get a kick
Timberlake
out of it.
carrying his toy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Those people. And there's a reason, because he was open-minded and he had conservative principles. He used to be a business owner, And so, so I took over that report in June to his home, and he looked pretty good. I was thinking to myself, geez, he's beating cancer. Good for him. But he was gone, 3 months later. But that's all he asked me about, right? He's like, have you read my report? I'm like, Bill, I got your report right here. I've read every bit of it. He goes, do you understand the steps? I'm like, Bill, I understand the steps. And I actually agree with them. And I also want to tell you a few of the things that I've learned by visiting drug houses and having other meetings with parents and seeing the truancy problem and all of that. I want to talk about more holistically. And he did. We sat down there a couple of hours at his house, and it was great. I mean, it's not like I think he met with a number of candidates. He didn't meet with all of them. He didn't have time, or the health apparently. But that's what he cared about.
Yeah, he was pretty passionate.
He actually cared about it. He doesn't want any child to die in state custody. So that's my problem with when we were talking about those education issues and now state custody. The DHHS has field people, but we're going to have to train them on how to follow up, even see more signs. They're seeing the signs. They need to see more signs. They need to act, and they need to react, and it has to be quicker. We have to take that time window and shrink it. I don't want kids missing 50, 60, 70 classes. Do you?
No, God, no.
No. And the kids, my wife's a teacher like yours, and my wife teaches special ed K to 5. And she will say, that kid is the nicest, sweetest kid. And if that kid was here all the time, you can see when they're growing and learning. And when they're at home all the time, it's a disaster.
Yeah, they regress.
Yeah, and that's not the majority of kids. Like, the majority of kids have great families, but there are some families that have a lot of social issues.
It's taught. It's just one of those things.
It's inherited.
Inherited, or just...
Yeah. Some fight it.
It's the state of Maine. There's a culture of you could stay home and be fine. You don't have to work hard. I don't know where that started.
COVID made it worse. It did.
Yeah,
people
for sure.
got used to. I can sit at home.
Yeah.
No.
What did they call that? Quietly quitting? No, what was that called? They had a term for it.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I know exactly what you're talking about. You know, I had this one alum from Thomas who was I felt so bad for her, and I tried to do everything I could. So she was emancipated from her parents who had just incredible problems, like, you know, drug problems, but domestic violence, serious problems, you know. And there are a lot of people in jail that are parents, and you see it all when you're a state senator because it's a big district, right? But anyway, this person, I got to see her this year at the Skowhegan Fair. And I just couldn't believe the success that she had. But when she was at Thomas College, she had no money, no wheels, and no parents. And so everyone came together. We all helped in our own way. And person successful has a family and a great marriage and lives in the Skowhegan area. And that's what we have to do with every single kid that's going through that kind of thing. And the DHHS, not to just like point fingers at them, but we really should separate out. And this is one thing Bill wanted. He thinks that children in state custody deserve a focused department that just focuses on that. Even if it's a small department, it shouldn't be mixed in with all the other stuff that DHHS does.
And DHHS is, correct me if I'm wrong, is the largest state department.
Yeah.
With no oversight.
Well, not enough. I think.
What's the oversight?
Well, the current, right. There's no.
Weren't we going to have like a sheriff? So wasn't there a suggestion or a bill or some sort of movement to have like the sheriffs oversee it, like a third party outside? Does that sound correct, Jim?
Well, yeah, I don't know if that had any legs, you know?
Right.
But yeah,
the idea
if
is
that's
good.
what you mean by oversight, I mean, the commissioner should be capable. The previous commissioner that we had, I'm sure she tried as hard as possible, but she just nothing got done. And it's a big job.
It's a monster.
It's a tough job. Yeah. But so sometimes, you know, we used to have when I was in, I mean, I know this is like a long time ago, but there was the Department of Mental Health and Mental Retardation.
Yeah.
There was that. There was separate.
Yeah.
And, you know, there was a need to focus on that. We just changed everything. I mean, we got rid of Pineland. We got rid of all these other institutions. Yeah.
NYC.
Right. And that has hurt society. I don't care what anybody says. I think that's hurt society.
I agree. There were atrocities that happened at those places, but there was also good that happened at those places. That's what you need to do is figure out how to do it right.
I've got a really good friend who's a former professor who always tells me about the atrocities. And I say to her, well, but there are some people that need institutional care.
Yeah, agreed. I grew up 2 miles down the road from AmHigh.
Yeah.
Augusta Mental Health
So
Institute.
you know.
I rode my bike in there.
Yeah.
I remember when Sharon Taylor was murdered in the woods right behind my house. Yeah. I remember these things.
Yeah.
And I knew people that worked at AmHigh.
Yeah.
And some of them were good and some of them weren't. And that's just the way it is. And that's human nature.
Yeah.
So you try to fix it, keep the things that work. But what we did was we just took them all out and went.
We did.
And I understand the idea of civil rights.
Yeah.
Right?
Here's an example from, again, like just, I'm so fortunate to be age 64 and still have my health and all that.
Yeah, you're doing great, Jim, by the way. I wouldn't have guessed you were 64.
Yeah,
I'm only 29.
You're looking great for 29.
I'm doing what I can.
Yeah, but I remember when we closed AmHigh, there was this one guy who I'm not naming names, who was really legitimately crazy and would like run down the middle of town with no clothes on and bang on walls and destroy stuff. So this person it was just really that bad. I mean, and I don't know enough about psychology. That's not what I studied. But the person needed help. Well, they closed AmHigh. So guess what the state decided to do? So the parents were like, we can't take this kid back. He's dangerous, right? We love him. He's our kid, but we can't take him back. And the state was like, yeah, you can. You know what we're going to do? We're going to add on to your home and build a rubber room. And they did.
That is
the most, well, first of all, it's the most
So now you expect the
economically
parents to-
nonsensible.
Oh.
Think about how many people that they were trying to take care of that way at the local level. And so then, and that's what caused this guy to, run through the town naked and all that stuff. I mean, people were in danger, and it's not even that person's fault. He was just crazy.
Right.
It's not his fault that he's crazy, but guess what? He needs institutional help. There's a place for that. And
There isn't right now.
No, but there
should be.
Yes, there's a
There
need
was.
for a need for that. There's no place for that. Or
Correct.
there's few places left. And everyone thinks, they can do that work in the field. No, not for those people.
And then the court system, there's something going on. We have a guy we lovingly refer to as racist skateboarder guy. He used to carry a skateboard with him all the time. He'd throw racial epithets. Anyway, when he was on his meds, he's fine. Yeah. And then slowly, so he'll be around for 3 months, disappear for 4 months, come back for 3 months.
Yeah.
And it's just I still see him. He's gone right now. So obviously he's being taken care of, but he'll be turned loose shortly and he'll be okay. And I'll talk to him. I'll buy him a cup of coffee, give him a pack of smokes, whatever. And then as time goes on, then he'll be calling me, you name it. And he'll be yelling at cars going by, walking down the middle of traffic, and the cops will be called over and over and over again.
Yeah. Well, we've decided that cashless bail is the way to go.
Yeah, that's another.
No, I mean, like everything that we do is soft. We're soft on crime. We're soft on mental health. We're soft on everything. And you know what? People learn when you're not soft, when you're hard. And it doesn't mean that you're actually caring when you're hard.
Yeah.
You're caring. Yeah. It's kind of
you're enabling if you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tough love.
Yeah.
That was
tough love. That's a really good way to put it because, some states have figured it out and Maine has not. And these are the reasons why we need a new leadership. And it's just ever so important that we think about all of the ramifications of the kinds of policies that we've had. And, I mean, that's just, I think about why people support me and why people oppose me. And, I'm trying to reach out to every single person. I know I'm not going to be successful with that, but I think there's a path to win. And I think 26 will be the year of the Republicans in Maine. And,
you think that, huh?
I do. I've seen it before. It's just been a long time. I saw it under Newt Gingrich when we had the Contract for America. Maine really benefited from that, and we had a big surge of Republicans. And I knew Jeff Butland, who was the president of the Senate at the time, and was a great Republican. And it was nice being in the majority. We had. For a year there, we had exactly the same amount of Republicans and Democrats in the House, and we had one independent who leaned Republican, and then we had the Senate by a couple of votes. So we had a majority for a short period of time. People don't talk about it anymore. They say, well, it's been 50 years of Democrats, but there was 1 year where we actually had. We'd have Republican chairs of some of the committees and Democrat chairs of other committees.
No kidding.
Yes, there was. We had a year. I can't remember what year it was.
What got done? Anything good?
Oh, a lot of good things. Well, the most important thing that you have to think about is the less radical it is, the better. So like with business,
for
right?
Sure. Yeah.
When it comes to people that want to do business in Maine, the one thing you have to provide for them is a predictable environment. Like if you've got a business plan and somehow there's been a complete change in either regulatory or tax structure, now this business plan is worthless because you predicted all the costs, you predicted you forecasted your revenues, and none of it's working. But yet we make those changes all the time in Maine. I'm going to give you an example of one that you're familiar with from last term that shows us what a bad job we do. So we had a great group of people come from Gorham Friendly Village, which is it's a mobile home park basically, and you own your spot, but you got to pay some rent, and that those fees went up and up and up, and they came to us and they asked for our help, and so I carefully explained to them, there's a way for us to give you help, but you got to make sure that you get the right elements to that law. And they didn't really care. They just wanted some help. So what happened with that law basically was so we're going to cap these increases. We're going to have a growth rate cap in the increases that landlords can charge, right? And I'm oversimplifying, but that's basically it. But if the law doesn't go into effect until September, then what's going to happen? The landlords are all going to raise the rent now before it affects them. And I told them at the meeting that I had with the people from Friendly Village, and there were a couple of other people that were advocating for those mobile home parks, and that's what I said to them. I'll support it if Democrats are willing to put it through an emergency legislation, because that means it'll be
immediate.
It'll start now, and there won't be anybody scamming the system. But you're going to face if you think it's high now. You're going to face a massive increase. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And, what's bad about being an economist? You got a pretty decent idea of the crap that's going to happen when you see bills pass.
It's like
and that's the way I
psychic.
felt then. I felt helpless, and I had phone calls with this person that was the head of the association at Friendly Village. I would have phone calls with her, and I'm like, it's not the panacea you think it is, because they're going to make a mistake. And geez, I mean, that happens all the time. Remember we were talking about impact analysis earlier. Mm-hmm. I really believe in it. So create stable conditions for business. I was talking to a couple of business leaders in Bangor recently, and they've got an unbelievable group of franchises. They own them all. So I was talking to them about just creating that stable business environment. It's going to require a lot of work with legislators, but the vetoes will help just to stabilize that.
Because it is pretty tumultuous.
It is
right now.
Well, who would invest here?
I know that. Yeah, 100%.
Who would invest in Maine?
Everyone skips Maine
with the environment that we've had at the legislative level. And I talk to my friends about that all the time, in and outside of government, and they know. And so that's why I think 26 is going to be a good year, because I think enough people know what the problem is. Now, there's this whole separate group of people that will always think that government's the solution. And, like with question one, it's kind of that it's people that want a sensible approach. Yellow flag.
Yeah, it works.
Sensible approach.
There was a mistake with yellow flag. They corrected it. There was a shortfall. I'm not sure the proper way to say it. I think shortfall would be accurate. There's a shortfall. They corrected it since then. It's been effective and used.
There were a couple of mistakes along the way. I think New York made a mistake with the person, obviously. It's one thing to be a bomb expert. It's another thing to try to protect your brain.
And there's no way to get it 100% right every time.
No. So, and I think the sheriffs, they took some responsibility. But yellow flag does work as well as any other. And I think what the state police said in their testimony against red flag was excellent, because they basically said, if you want to take it out of our hands and go that direction, we think you're making a huge mistake. And that's why even Governor Mills is not in favor of that one's 2, right? Question
Correct.
2.
Question 2.
2. Yeah.
Yeah.
2. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a no on 2.
Yeah.
Yes,
no on 2. Yeah. Yeah.
It's and that's the direction we're headed down. I'm super curious to see what happens in January. Of course, my first session, waiting to see what happens there. And then we're doing another election cycle, and currently helping local candidates try to get across the finish line here. Never thought I'd be in politics, but here I am.
Well,
I liked yelling at you guys.
Yeah.
From behind the radio, Yeah. So I'm driving down the road. That was a lot easier than being involved.
But usually the people that do the yelling are the ones that end up in government, and that's a good thing just generally. If people can understand what the effect on them is if they've gone through it and now they're a representative. That's nothing wrong with that. The only problem that I have is that with just the general thinking in Augusta, and this is nothing against anybody, right? But nobody is ever going to remember the bill that you got through. And a lot of people are like, I'm building my resume with, look at this bill that I passed. Well, no. I mean, no. And I've been involved in little tiny bills that passed and huge system bills that passed. And people don't remember me for them. I mean, let me give you an example. The Jobs for Maine's Graduates program is in over 100 schools in Maine.
Yeah.
It's even in some colleges. That was a bill that I co-sponsored with a Democrat senator when I was in the House, and we worked with the governor and we wrote it. Who was it?
Yeah.
She was.
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Well, no. She was a senator from Standish, and now I'm having a hard time.
Because I do remember that bill.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I didn't know you were on it. So you're accurate in your statement.
I was a co-sponsor, and let's see. Yeah, I will come up with it probably before the end of this podcast. Well, it was the 90s.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was the 90s when we came up with it.
Huh.
Yeah, and so then I served on the inaugural board. So I served on the Jobs for Maine's Graduates Board, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years or something like that. And you know what was really funny about that is that they had a annual meeting, and they brought me and this woman that was the co-sponsor and gave us an award. And my college president came, and she didn't know that I was involved in helping to create the program. She's like, what? Because we have it at Thomas. You know, we have an office at Thomas for the JMG program.
That's
Yeah, it was. But I never tell anybody, because even if I told them, they wouldn't remember. I don't even, I don't think that a bill is a feather in your cap. Really, you're trying to help Maine.
No, I noticed that people refer to others in the
Bonnie Titcomb. It just came to me.
Bonnie Titcomb,
Senator Bonnie Titcomb, wherever you are,
welcome.
You're a good Democrat. I love you to death. It took me a minute to come up with a name. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
Bonnie Titcomb.
People tend to remember the character more than the bills.
Well, we were both Bon Eagle graduates, so it was really unusual when we teamed up, and we were asked by the governor to team up and do that, which was kind of nice. I was on the ed committee, I think, at the time, and she had a long history in education, and they felt like it was something that both the Democrats and Republicans would agree on, and that bill sailed. It went right through. And what's great about that program is that kids can learn what it is to be in a field. Like they can learn this is what a trooper does. This is, if you work in HVAC, this is what you have to have for training. And, like here's licensure for this. And all that stuff is showed literally by people going and talking to kids in the schools. And then of course they have conventions too. So it's a cool program, but honestly, nobody ever remembered that, I was involved in authoring it or was on the first board. And I like telling it because I like telling people the experience that I can bring to the Blaine House. I want to make sure that they know that, but no, bills. You see them, you know what I'm talking about. You see people running around with bills and they get married to the bill too, even if it's bad.
Yes. Oh, for sure. And there's a faction of people that are just, that have bad ideas. Yeah. And it's just what it is, human nature.
Yeah. The other bill that was my bill that a lot of people talk about indirectly these days is the BETTER program, Business Equipment Tax Rebate. It turned into the BETTY program, Business Equipment Tax Exemption. And that program was designed so we used to go into all these large businesses and charge them the personal property tax on every piece of machinery and equipment, right? Yeah, and so, but we created a rebate. We couldn't get rid of the tax because it's a tax that's at the local level that's assessed, and you can't, if a town can collect property taxes, you can't take that ability away from them. So we would have had to have 2/3 vote in both houses to get rid of that, and it would have been impossible. So we created a rebate program. So basically, if a company wanted to come in here and invest in Maine, they didn't have to worry about being taxed fully on that personal property, And that was a great program. A lot of companies used it, and it did spur some economic development. And I think that the DECD is a
DECD.
the Department of Economic and Community Development that we have in Maine.
I'm familiar with that title, but I never heard to it referred to as the acronym.
I think that could be one of the most effective departments in government if we utilize it correctly. And because I think economic development incentives are really important. Because
I would agree with that.
Yeah, what you're trying to do is either incentivize them financially or by offsetting or avoiding regulation, and putting packages together for. So a friend of mine owns a paper company out in Michigan. And he wanted to come back to me because he was originally from Maine. Donnie Bean, great guy, and
part of the Bean family.
No, different Bean. But anyway, he wanted to come back. He was in Michigan or Wisconsin. I think it was Michigan. He wanted to come back, and so he talked to leaders in Maine, including Maine and Company, that helps to recruit companies from out of state, and the governor's office. And unfortunately, when he left, I'll never forget. He called me up. He goes, "Jim, you guys have nothing to offer. I can't come back." And that was the end of it, And I don't know. We do offer some incentives. We went through this one period. The Democrats are like, we want the movie producers to come to Maine. Let's give them incentives. And there was this one movie that was produced up in the Skowhegan area that was famous. But I mean, overall, remember that?
Yeah, I do.
We haven't had a lot of success bringing business in here. And the guy that runs Maine and Company now is a Colby graduate, and he's a really smart guy, and he's very kind of nonpartisan. He really does a great job, but his hands are tied. It's really hard for him. We don't offer much. The market's not there. We only have 1.3 million people, and in some markets, you just don't have enough people to make it worthwhile. And then we got the bad business regulation, terrible tax. Our tax policies are the worst. I mean, It was always Hawaii before. We're just trying to take every title away from them. I don't get it.
In the morning, I have a habit. I do a game that's supposed to help cognitive function, and then I read the headlines right down through the Google thing. And at least once every so often, I can't really put a timeline on it, there's an article about a business that came to Maine and then left and went to some other state. They came to Maine to do business.
Yeah.
Especially in the wood industry, and they're like, it costs too much. The electricity, the employees, the cost of living, all of it, and the regulation. And they go, no, I'm out.
Well, we had a company come when I was dean at Thomas College. I used to be the academic dean, and I ran the graduate program fully. And we had a company that is now CGI, and they came up and met with us, and what they were concerned about was getting good labor. And of course, we train kids in business at Thomas College. I'm a business professor, and they came and. They were talking about in the meeting. It came up, it's tough regulatory climate, tough tax climate, and so I came right out and I asked the guy. They were from Boston. They started in Boston. They had a big operation down there. They want to come to Maine. I'm like, why do you want to come? And he goes, I like to ski. We have that in Maine. We have the most beautiful natural resources in the world, and this current administration has done everything possible to trash them. We have solar panels everywhere.
I know. Windmills, blown
What are we doing? What are we doing? That's the natural resource.
I don't understand it.
It's a heritage. This is what we own. This is what we're good at. This is why we're vacation land.
I don't understand it, Jim. It doesn't make any sense.
I don't either. But this is why, this is the danger that happens when too many people get too much power. They start thinking, I'll never forget the first solar farm was, you see it every day. Like when you get off the exit in the second exit in Augusta, all these solar panels. Well, the governor did that without even going to the planning board in Augusta, and boy, they were pissed.
Oh, I bet. I bet. What an eyesore, too.
It's terrible.
It's unbelievable.
What do we want people to see? I don't even know why the Maine Turnpike Authority keeps putting up so many signs, because we got GPS now. Hello.
Yeah.
I want to see the beauty of nature when I come to Maine, and so do you, and so does
Oh,
so
yeah.
do all these
I
visitors.
love the woods. Always have.
Of course. My grandfather was a Maine guide, and boy, was he spent a lot of time in the woods, and we came to appreciate it. And he loved hunting, and he fished the Sebago pretty much every single day of his life when he came back from World War I. And so Sebago Lake is really worth protecting, and we should.
Yeah.
So
and we still don't know about these solar panels. See, there's a lot of mystery here. Like, how do you get rid of them? What rolls off of them when rainwater rolls off of them? What goes with it?
Yeah. Do you know what we're going to have to do? It's going to be expensive. We're going to have to buy out the out-of-state developers. We're going to have to buy them out. And eventually, we're going to have to disassemble some of those. And we're going to have to slowly take some of those off the grid. You know why? They're not helping anyway. There's not enough electricity coming from those.
No, they don't.
And so
maybe someday, but not today.
There's PFAS problems with those panels that we got from China. There's PFAS problems. Yeah. The runoff seems to contain some PFAS.
I heard that anecdotally, but
scientists are working on that. We're trying to get good studies.
Okay.
But that's a major concern. And
see, I need a guy that can sit there and type and look it up for us, because I tried doing that earlier. It's so disruptive.
Let me go back a couple decades then and really take you through. So here's what we started with.
I'd love to present facts.
Well, this is a fact. Is a fact. When we started with the farmers, right? We're like, farmers, government is going to set up this great program. We're going to have you spread sludge on your fields, and we're going to pay you to do it. You're going to make money. And a lot of farmers took that. Well, what was in the sludge?
Yeah.
I mean, like, it wasn't just when we were debating that, it wasn't just like PFAS wasn't really known back then, but it had all the medical waste and contaminants in it. And it smelled to the high heavens. And we said, that's not natural. You don't want to, this is not fertilizer. Hello.
Right.
This is sludge. You don't want to spread this on your fields. Well, now all these fields are completely contaminated. So what did we do? But what did we do? We told the farmers, hey, you can make a solar field out of it.
Yeah. Well,
we'll pay you to do it.
Well, here's a better one.
Oh my
Jim.
God.
We have a robust zoning laws for ag zone here in this town. So not far from where we're sitting is beautiful farmland. It's just beautiful. And it's pristine, it's wonderful, and it's covered in solar panels. And right across the street is the sludge plant. And all these fields
it's so ironic.
that are unusable because of PFAS.
That's so ironic.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's untouched except for that plant.
That was the solution. So government created the problem, and then the solution is a problem. So we're going for the trifecta there too. That's, again, it's an advantage of being around for so long. I started so young in government, and boy, I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but I do remember the ridiculous things that we did, and it's just frustrating, and so we need to make sure that these really lame-brained ideas don't hatch.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Some of them are,
Well, that's one of them. I like to tell people that story. I actually told it in Waterville the other day. All 20 of the gubernatorial candidates got together, and we all had 5.
Oh, really?
Yes, all 20.
I missed it.
Yep. The Republicans, the Democrats, the Independents, and it was over at the Best Western Plus. And the Mid-Maine Chamber sponsored
I was there. I'm sorry. I was there for that one. I'm sorry. Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was 20, but now that I think back, yes, it was.
So I remember at least getting an opportunity at the very end to talk about, our natural resources. And I brought up that sludge issue. That's always going to stay with me. I feel bad about that because, I had worked previously on MTBE. We used to have this gas additive called MTBE, and it was an artificially produced in plants, added to gas, and it did burn. So people thought, this is going to be great because the cost of gas is high, and we can add 10 or 15% of this MTBE. Well, what the scientific reports that I and others read was that if MTBE spills, it bonds with water and you can't really clean it. It's very difficult to clean. It pollutes incredibly, right? So I started fighting that fight. And for 2 years, I fought that fight. And I'll never forget, at the end of the legislative session, we adjourned, sign or die, and I was sitting at home. And you know how you're exhausted at the end of a session? It's like everything's been sucked, your whole life has been sucked out of you. Well, I was at the, it's true.
It is true. It is true.
I was sitting there kind of dazed in the morning after, because, you know, we also stay there all night, and then we come home at, you know, at dawn. That stuff. Anyway, so I'm sitting there, and I get this call. And it was King, Governor King. And he asked me this question. This is something that's, for me, it was important. He said, why were you so against MTBE? You need to tell me, what is the problem? And because we lost the fight. Like, we lost the bill and then adjourned. We lost. And we still had MTBE and gasoline. But King is kind of an environmentalist, as you know. And so anyways, like, why? And I'm like, well, I've got a couple scientific reports here. One lake in Utah that was completely polluted by this stuff, and they can't clean it. Is that what you want? So I said, why don't you just read these reports? So I sent him the reports, and I don't know, it was about a week later, he gave me another call. He goes, hey, Jim, I want you to come up to the State House. And I'm like, I don't know if I've had enough rest, but yes, I'll come. And so he said, we're going to, right out of the executive branch, we're going to stop allowing MTBE in the state of Maine. And so...
Wow, that's a win.
It was a win. Even though I lost in the legislature, and I'll never forget it. We won in the House.
You feel so defeated.
Well, we won in the House, and we lost in the Senate by one vote, and one of the co-sponsors of the bill changed their vote. That's another whole story. But anyway, that was finally, you know, just right after the legislature closed up, he decided, he read those reports, and he was an environmentalist. He's definitely an environmentalist.
Yeah, I am.
So, and he said, you know, we need to do something about this. And at the same time, California was getting rid of it.
King is the windmill guy.
Well, I don't know, like, if there was some other energy consideration. I'm not going to make that judgment. There probably was, because, you know, he sold an energy company. And that's how he made his millions or whatever.
I had to think about that one for a minute.
Yeah.
There's been so many different things that have happened in the past few years.
What all of the things that went into his decision. I'm just glad that we got rid of
MTBE.
Right. And so now, you know, like, we warned about the sludge. It was pretty much the same time. It was a little bit later than that. But we're like, you know, like, look at these reports. This stuff is nasty. We can't put it on our farmers' fields. It's not that, you know, like, it's not going to replace, you know, the kinds of fertilizer that are out there that are really natural.
Yeah, like cow manure.
Yeah. Well, cow manure, yeah.
I was reading this morning they expanded the no-eat.
The no what?
The no-eat zone. So if you're harvesting deer, the area in which you shouldn't be eating deer is larger now. There's more areas added to it, and I question that too. I don't know. I don't know.
We do crazy things.
Yes, we do. And I'm a kind of a conspiracy guy. I'm like, you're up to something. I just can't put my finger on it yet.
Well, the reason that you can successfully call something a conspiracy is because for example, when we choose our constitutional officers, the Democrats all go running into a room and they decide who the next constitutional. That's a conspiracy. And the worst part of that is, this is going to be almost impossible to change, Quentin. The worst part is that they get to choose the attorney general, because the attorney general, if the governor is Republican, the executive branch is going to get no help from the attorney general, when that's the most important relationship you got.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we went through that with Mills and LePage. Mm-hmm. And that's when I saw it was the worst. But I decided it somewhere in the 2010 era or something, 2012, that I would never be in favor of us choosing. I don't care how we choose the Secretary of State. It'd be nice if we put it out for
on
election.
The ballot. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, but I don't care about that much. It's the Attorney General. I don't care about the auditor. I don't even the treasurer. I want the treasurer to have a CPA.
Yeah.
You know, be nice.
Yeah.
But the Attorney General, what a mistake we're making.
Yeah.
It's an embarrassment. We're the only state.
The Attorney General and SOS for me, Secretary of State, those two should be voted on at a minimum. And then how do you feel about RCV?
About
ranked choice?
Ranked choice? I had I got my list of my bills here. So in the 131st, I put in the bill
That was you?
get rid of ranked choice voting. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that about me. You know what? People,
No one ever remembers the bill.
They don't.
I heard that from somebody not long ago.
They don't. They don't. I tell people all the time, they're like, well, you've been in favor of some education issues for teachers. I'm like, well, yeah. I honestly think that some of the ed techs, that their pay is like dirt. And so I was in favor of this ed tech bill. Well, those bills sometimes you get remembered for. People don't remember that, you're trying to get more competition in the schools, and you're against ranked choice voting, and, the porn bill. Those are all my bills. So I try to tell people, there are some times when I think I'm going to support education the best way I can. And so the ed tech bill, I was in favor of raising the minimum wage for ed techs.
Can I throw my 2 cents in on?
Yes, and I'm okay if you're against it.
No. Ed techs are way underpaid.
Yeah, thank you.
Agreed. Teachers, and I've made this mistake. I've said it before, and I'll say it out loud. Teachers are overpaid, but they're not. Not everywhere. And a good teacher.
Yeah.
In Auburn, starting pay is somewhere in the $50,000 range. So if you're 23, just getting out of college, you're starting out at $50,000 a year for a half a year job. I know that if you research it, they say that an average teacher works 60 hours a week. I'm going to say that's probably not true. And I've argued with AI for hours on end with that one. My wife's a teacher.
But we do have good teachers.
Yes, we do. And a good teacher's worth their weight in gold.
Yeah.
For sure. We also have bad teachers.
Yeah.
And I think my issue now, with some experience behind me, isn't about the pay so much as it is about the quality of the teachers and how we're getting them.
Oh, yeah.
There should be a values, ethics, something. Because
I like merit pay. There's nothing like that. You get a teacher's contract is 3 years, and you're going to be on this step. And the other thing that always bothered me is that the master teachers, there's master teachers and there's master's degree holders, and some of them are really good teachers. The difference between their pay and the pay of a baccalaureate degree is nothing. It's a couple $1,000 or something.
Yeah, I can't speak
It's not
to
that
that
much. So I don't. I like to try to support teachers. I just have, I don't know, I'm in the profession and I'm biased toward it. And I tell every Republican, okay, well, that's my fault. If that's my only fault, I don't think I'm doing that bad.
Well, I think if children are the most important commodity we have, then teachers should be the most important job we have.
Because at the same time,
Therefore, we should be interviewing them as
Correct.
if they're the most important job we have.
Yeah. At the same time, I want to support teachers. I mean, a clear, important part of my platform is doing something about property taxes. So at the same time, I mean, I don't want to just like shove it into the face of some local town and make them vote against their school budget or whatever they're going to do. That's not the answer. The answer is to try to do something system-wide to help, And,
what do you have for ideas on that?
Well, it's in my plan that's online, I do talk about tripling the property tax.
Let's do a plug. What is your plan? Where do I go online to see it?
www.jimlibbyforgovernor.com.
Okay.
All the policies there. I have long dissertations on there, long statements about what I support. And so if you have trouble sleeping at night, you should open it up. It's obviously. But one of the
Jim
things
Libby,
is
he's here to help.
Yeah. Well, you start reading, and I will help. You're going to go right to sleep. So, but yeah, I think I was on a bill last year to, triple the property tax program that we have now, the homestead.
Yep.
The homestead.
Yeah, I actually remember that.
It's been at $25,000 for the longest time. And so there was a Democrat this time around. And of course, I was on the taxation committee when the Democrats got rid of the senior property tax stabilization program that froze property taxes for seniors. They got rid of that. And that was last term, 131st. I was on the taxation committee. And I was so disappointed with that. But the Democrats promised at that time, oh, well, we're going to raise the homestead. And we got a Democrat that's got the bill in. And I went to that Democrat. I said, can I co-sponsor that? And she was like, yes, I'd love to have you on. So anyway, guess where that bill went? The trash.
Oh, yeah.
It never went. So we've been at $25,000 for the exemption forever. It's been years and years and years. But the cost of living is basically doubled and sometimes tripled in some. So we're not keeping up even with inflation when it comes to that government program. So I think we need to triple that. So the first year of my budget, I've got about $1.5 billion of reduced spending, and because
wow, that's a significant chunk.
it's a big chunk, but we need to we've got to start with an income tax cut because we got to put more money in people's pockets. In the short run, we have to do something, and I believe that the property tax is probably the most onerous problem that's really killing my district. So I want to do immediately something there. And then the third thing that I have to spend money on is, do you remember we used to have a property tax growth rate cap across the whole state, every town?
Yeah,
and then
property cap and a senior citizens.
Yeah, so we got rid of both of those. So what I want to do is create a second round of revenue sharing that towns can opt in on, and the town would have to agree to go back to a growth rate cap. But in exchange, in the short run, I'm going to have more revenue sharing for you. That way, it's not going to hurt people who are paying ever higher property taxes. And so that's short run, not long run. And, in the long run, we keep going with the income tax cut, get it to, that full $1 billion, and then keep going from there. And like I said, I'm the only person that I know of that's still in the legislature besides Dick Campbell and maybe one or two others that was successful and was able to vote for the reduction of the sales tax rate. So I know it can be done, but you have to get you got to wheel and deal and make a lot of trades. But you certainly, if the state of Maine would send us a Republican Senate, a Republican House, a Republican governor, we'd certainly get all that done.
You think so?
I do. Look at the way that the Democrats just use 50% and pass everything they want.
I'm optimistically apprehensive. It's just my nature.
I'm optimistic. I think, people are fed up.
I've been watching government for a long time, and I'm like,
yeah. Well, you have to remain. I want to live here, so I mean.
Yeah, me too.
I tell everybody, like I've been here the whole way.
You mentioned it earlier. Your daughter may not come back.
Yeah,
life is easier.
I worry about that, but I want her to achieve her goals too. She just had an interview with the Country Music Hall of Fame to work there while she goes to school. And,
that's cool.
Yeah, so whatever she wants to go after, I want to support her. And if she doesn't come back, then I guess I'm going to have to be on the jet once in a while. And
you've got a long heritage here, a long history.
Yeah, I'm 14th generation Libby, all in Maine. Yeah, they landed in Scarborough on Prout's Neck, and there's still a little.
When you say landed, came from?
Well, they came from England.
Yeah.
And when they came ashore, they were on Prout's Neck, and back in that day, Prout's Neck is worth millions and millions of dollars. I wish we still owned it.
Oh, that was the
Libbys. Yeah, John and Jim Libby came over and they settled there, and there's actually still a small monument about when they fought against the Native Americans there when they landed, and they won somehow. And so, but anyway, I'm a 14th generation Libby, and there's a lot of Libbys in Maine. So if I could get the Libby vote, I'm planning on it.
Is there any places people can go to find you besides JimLibbyForGovernor.com?
Yeah, because I think, like I'm on social media too. We're just starting up with TikTok, but I like my truck talk show that I have. So I stand on the, beside my truck and talk about issues of Maine governance. And I do that every week, a couple times a week. I don't have a podcast.
Posted on Facebook?
I post on Facebook.
Yep.
And so go to Jim Libby for Governor on Facebook, and you can go back and watch all of my truck talks. And I'm pretty proud of them. I think they're pretty good. I try to keep them to a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Sometimes they're a little bit longer than that. But I think it's common sense. Maine needs common sense. Yeah. Is
any upcoming events?
For me?
Yeah, public.
Oh yeah. We've got down at Doomgrass, we got another debate coming up.
That's right. Yeah.
And we just had that one with, of course, one of the Bushes entered the race, so that made it
kind of a comedian.
Yeah, he is. He's a character. He's got a lot of energy. But anyway, it kind of adds a whole different kind of slant to the debate, which I like, because people should hear us debate. People should hear us talk, and they should choose who they think will be the best. And
Competition is good.
yeah, I mean, like the last debate that we had over there, I looked at the number of viewers, and it was lower than I would have liked. So I think, as we get closer to the election, people will really start viewing that stuff, I feel.
I think we also have to get past this November.
Yeah.
You've got this big push right now, and I think the ads are going to just start. I haven't been seeing them. Have you?
The Bush has had a couple of TV ads, but and I put a radio ad on Ray Richardson's show for a week, and then I know at least one other candidate has some radio ads, but that's it. There hasn't been a lot. There will be, come spring, there'll be a lot, but we're still 8.5 months away from an election. So
with that being said, Senator Jim Libby, I greatly appreciate you coming here and talking to me.
Representative Quentin Chapman, has been a pleasure. And I wish you all the best. I see your wife is running for...
No, my daughter.
Your daughter's running
for school board.
Yeah, well, let's get that out there so you don't have to toot your own horn.
Chapman.
Let's make sure we vote for Lydia
Ward
Chapman. 4. I'm sure far more people are watching this in the Auburn area. So
and Nancy Polk at large.
Okay.
For school board.
All right. Let's get it done.
Thank you.
We'll see you later.
Bye.